Ladies and gentlemen, friends, souls walking roads they never thought they'd travel, let me speak to you plainly from the bone and the breath. There comes a time when what looks like love, smells like love, dresses up in wedding rings and pretty smiles, starts to show its true face. A face that doesn't lift you up, but slowly, gently, deliberately pulls you down. You look in the mirror and don't know your own reflection. You sit across the dinner table from someone who once said they'd die for you, and now you're the one dying a little, day by day, piece by piece. There is a kind of silence that screams louder than any shout, a kind of touch that leaves bruises without a mark, and when you live with a narcissist, that silence and that touch become your daily bread. But oh, let me tell you something true. You were not born for chains, not of gold, not of guilt, not of fear. You were born with fire. You were born with a voice, and no matter how long it's been quieted, it still waits deep down, wrapped in courage. You do not belong to manipulation. You do not owe your light to someone who only wants to keep you in their shadow. So today, we speak not just of survival, but of awakening, not just of broken vows, but of rising power. Because even in the deepest control, there lies the seed of freedom, and it belongs to you. You ready? Let's go find it. There is a kind of love that wears perfume and promises. It dances in like a dream, smooth and sure, whispering all the right things at all the right times. It makes you feel chosen, like the sun finally decided to shine just for you. And you, why? Dyed and open, hearted believe it, because why wouldn't you? We are all born hoping to be seen, to be held, to be understood. But sometimes the one who sees you best is not looking to love you. They are looking to control you. They study your heart not to honor it, but to use it. They find your light not to celebrate it, but to stand in front of it, so all eyes are drawn to them instead. They do not show up as villains, no. They show up charming, brilliant, generous, until they no longer need the disguise. That is when the mask begins to slip, and when it does, it doesn't fall all at once. No, it peels away slowly, one confusing moment at a time, one joke made at your expense, wrapped in laughter that doesn't feel like love, one compliment that somehow cuts you, one cold shoulder when you need comfort the most. You think maybe you're imagining things, you think maybe it's you, because that's what they want you to think. They rewrite reality with a smile. One minute they love you like you're the last good thing on earth. The next they look through you like you're made of air. They raise their voice not to be heard, but to make you small, and you learn to shrink to keep the peace. You learn to second, guess your instincts. You learn that love in their world is a reward and a punishment, given when you obey, withheld when you don't. But let me tell you this, what you are feeling is real, that confusion, that walking on eggshells feeling, that sense that you've lost yourself somewhere between I do and what happened to me. That is not love, that is manipulation. And the person behind that manipulation may not scream or strike, but they cut with precision, with silence, with charm so cold it burns. A narcissist does not love you as you are. They love how you make them feel. They love the reflection of themselves they see in your admiration, your sacrifice, your suffering. And when you stop admiring, when you start asking questions, when you dare to say no, they do not apologize. They retaliate, they gaslight, they turn the blame like a weapon and aim it right back at you. You find yourself apologizing for things you didn't do, begging for attention you should never have to earn, explaining your feelings like they are crimes. You lose your voice while trying to hold on to a connection that was never meant to lift you, and yet you stay not because you're weak, but because you are strong in all the ways that love requires. Patient, loyal, hopeful. But those same strengths can become your chains in the hands of someone who twists them for their own gain. You keep hoping the person you first met will come back, but let me offer this truth gently, that person was never real. That was the mask. What you see now, the coldness, the cruelty, the absence of empathy, that is the truth. And truth is not meant to destroy you, but to set you free. Recognizing the narcissist in your marriage is not about blame. It's about clarity. It's about naming what you were never allowed to name. It's about seeing the patterns you've lived with for so long that they almost feel like home. But manipulation is not home. Control is not love. And confusion is not the price of commitment. You have always known, deep down, your body knows, the tension in your shoulders, the sleepless nights, the quiet tears you hide, your spirit knows, the exhaustion, the dimming of your light. And the moment you choose to name what is happening is the moment you begin to rise. It is not weakness to admit you were deceived. It is wisdom, it is strength, it is the first breath after too long underwater. You are not crazy, you are not broken, you are not to blame. You are waking up from a spell that was cast with kindness and cruelty woven together. And now that your eyes are open, you will begin to see clearly. The way your joy was made small, the way your voice was silenced, the way your heart was used and not honored. You will remember who you were before the mask showed up. And more than that, you will discover who you still are, because beneath all the manipulation, all the gaslighting, all the fear, there still lives a you who is whole, who is powerful, who is worthy of a love that does not wound, a love that does not hide behind masks, a love that does not ask you to become less in order for someone else to feel like more. There are times in life when the sky seems to shift, not because the clouds have moved, but because someone has taken your eyes and taught them to doubt the blue. They tell you it's raining when you are standing in the sun. They say you're too sensitive when you speak your pain. They say it never happened, though your heart carries the bruises like heavy stones. This is the silent storm called gaslighting, and it does not come in with thunder. It comes soft, slow, and steady, wearing the clothes of concern and the voice of reason. You begin to forget your own truth. Not because you are weak, but because someone has worked hard to replace it with their version of the story. You question the memory that once felt solid. You doubt the tone you heard in their voice. You replay conversations late into the night, hoping to make sense of how love turned so cruel while still sounding so calm. Gaslighting is not just lying. It is war on your mind. It is stealing your compass and then blaming you for losing your way. And the worst part is how small you begin to feel inside your own skin. You start second, guessing everything. Did I overreact? Did I imagine it? Maybe I am the problem. You keep adjusting, shrinking, tiptoeing through a life that no longer feels like yours. You start saying sorry just to keep the peace, but the peace never comes, just more silence, more twisting of truth, more shadows in places where sunlight once lived. Let me speak it loud for the one hiding in the dark. What you are experiencing is not love. It is control. It is power dressed up as partnership. And though it may not leave marks on your body, it leaves wreckage in your spirit. Gaslighting is a slow erosion of the self, a drip, drip, drip that wears away at your knowing until the ground beneath you feels hollow. But oh, there is a light still burning in you. Even if it flickers, even if it's dim, it is still there. That light is your clarity, that voice deep down that says, this isn't right. That ache in your chest when they deny the things you remember clearly. That storm of emotion you feel when your reality is dismissed again and again. That is not madness. That is truth fighting to come alive in you. And truth, no matter how long it has been buried, always rises. Maybe not fast, maybe not loud, but it rises, like roots pushing through cracked pavement, like dawn breaking after a long and sleepless night. The moment you stop doubting your own eyes, your own feelings, your own worth, that is the moment you begin to reclaim your reality. You do not owe anyone your silence. You do not owe them your confusion. You do not owe them your agreement just to keep the illusion alive. Your clarity is your birthright. Your mind is your own. And anyone who tries to take that from you is not offering love. They are offering chains. There is power in saying, I remember. There is strength in declaring, I felt that. There is freedom in stating, that happened, and I will no longer pretend it didn't. You do not need their permission to speak your truth. You do not need their acceptance to believe your own experience. You are not crazy. You are not dramatic. You are not too much. You are a human being reclaiming the sacred ground of your reality. And when you start walking in that truth, the world begins to shift. It may not be easy. Those who controlled you may fight to keep you confused. They may call you names. They may try one last time to twist your truth into something unrecognizable, but by then you will know. You will feel it in your bones, the quiet, steady power of knowing what is real. The truth does not need to scream to be heard. It does not need to explain itself over and over. It simply stands steady and sure. And you, too, will stand again, not as someone broken, but as someone who has been through fire and come out shining. You will rebuild your sense of self, brick by brick, moment by moment. You will begin to trust your own voice again, to walk in your own knowing, to say no when needed and yes when it is true. Clarity is not about being perfect. It is about being honest. It is about saying, I know what I lived through, and I do not have to carry the blame anymore. It is about releasing the lies they fed you, and choosing instead to nourish yourself with truth. You are worthy of a life where your thoughts are not questioned, your emotions are not mocked, your soul is not manipulated for someone else's comfort. You are not the storm they said you were. You are the sky itself. Vast, beautiful, and clear, there comes a moment when you wake up not with a start, but with a deep stillness, and knowing that lives beneath all the noise. A moment when you no longer ask the world to validate your worth, because something inside you, something unshakable, finally remembers that it was never theirs to decide. That moment, though it may come after years of being diminished, after tears cried in silence, after love twisted into control, it comes, and when it does, it changes everything, because you see, worth is not something a person gives you like a gift. It is not written in their compliments or their attention. It is not tied to how many times they say you're beautiful, or smart, or strong. Because the same mouth that praises you one day might cut you the next. And if you let their words build you, they will feel entitled to break you. That is not love. That is ownership disguised as affection. You were worthy before they met you. You were worthy before you ever fell in love. Before you said yes. Before you gave and gave and gave, hoping it would finally be enough. And still, when they blamed you for their bad moods, when they accused you of things you never did, when they made you feel like you had to earn their love every single day just to survive in the same room, you tried harder. You stayed longer. You bent until you were nearly unrecognizable, because somewhere along the line you began to believe the lie that your value could change depending on how someone treated you. But your worth is not a bargain. It is not a discussion. It is not a courtroom where someone gets to be judge and jury over your spirit. Your worth is breath. It is birthright. It is bone, deep and God-spoken, and no raised voice, no cold silence, no slammed door has the power to take that from you. They may have convinced you otherwise. They may have drawn maps in your mind that lead only to guilt and shame. They may have said you were too needy, too emotional, too loud, too much. But the truth is, you were always just enough. Enough as you are, enough in the quiet and in the storm, enough even when you made mistakes, because even then your worth did not shrink. Let's tell the truth now. You stayed because you believed in love. You believed in the promise. You believed that if you just showed up with more grace, more patience, more forgiveness, you could fix what was broken. But love is not a performance. It is not a stage you must constantly audition for. You were never meant to dance for crumbs while someone else sat full at the table of your kindness. That is not partnership, that is power play. And you, beautiful soul, were never meant to be someone's emotional pawn. There is nothing wrong with you for hoping. There is nothing wrong with you for trying. The fault does not live in your faithfulness. The fault is in the lie that your value is tied to what you give others, even when they give you nothing but confusion and pain in return. You were taught to be loyal, but loyalty should never cost you your peace. You were taught to be patient, but patience should never feel like waiting for someone to stop hurting you. You were taught to be strong, but strength should not mean carrying the weight of someone else's wounds while they add to your own. You have done enough, you have been enough, and now is the time to remember that your value was never up for negotiation. Not with a partner, not with a parent, not with a friend, not with the world. The moment you stop asking for permission to feel worthy is the moment you step into your real power, and that power doesn't shout. It doesn't beg, it simply stands like a tree that refuses to apologize for taking up space, like the moon that doesn't dim when someone looks away. They may try to draw you back in, with sweet words, with guilt, with memories. They may say they've changed, they may cry. They may say no one else will love you like they did. And you can look them in the eye, not with anger, not with fear, but with truth, and know that no one else will ever love you like that again, because you will never again settle for a love that demands you to disappear to be accepted. You get to redefine what love means to you. You get to protect your peace like it is holy. You get to say no without explanation. You get to walk away without needing permission. You get to choose yourself, not because you are selfish, but because you are sacred. And anything sacred must be protected. You may not feel powerful yet. You may still carry the echoes of their doubt in your ears. You may still have days where you wonder if it was really that bad, but healing is not a straight line. Some days you will soar. Some days you will sit in the quiet and feel the weight of what you carried. Both are holy, both are human, and in all of it, your worth remains untouched. The journey back to yourself is not always fast, and it is not always easy, but it is always worth it. Because you are not building a new version of you, you are returning to the one who was always there, buried beneath the fear, the control, the gaslight, the shame, the you who laughed without checking the room, the you who spoke your truth without apology, the you who loved not to survive, but because it is your nature to love, and oh, what a gift you are, not because someone says so, but because you breathe, because you feel, because you exist. That is enough. You are enough. You've always been. There is a quiet kind of power that does not raise its voice or wave its arms. It does not argue. It does not plead. It simply stands. That power is called a boundary. And when you've lived your life being bent and broken by the needs of others, when you've been trained to sacrifice your peace just to keep someone else from falling apart, the idea of choosing your own sanity can feel selfish. But it is not. It is sacred. You see, some of us were taught that love means losing ourselves, that love means staying no matter the cost, that to be kind, to be loyal, to be good, we must accept the unacceptable and forgive the unforgivable. And so we stayed. We quieted our truth to protect someone else's comfort. We gave and gave until we were nothing but a shadow stretched too thin across the floor of someone else's home. But there comes a day when your spirit says no more. Not with anger, not with hate, but with clarity, because the soul knows when it has been worn too raw. And the truth is, if you do not draw the line, you will disappear beneath it. If you do not choose your own mind, your own rest, your own safety, someone will choose for you. And it will never be enough, because a person who feeds on your sacrifice does not care what it costs you. They will take until there is nothing left but a body going through motions and a voice that no longer remembers its own name. Boundaries are not walls to keep people out. They are doors that remind people where you end and where they begin. A boundary says, I will not carry what is not mine. I will not bleed so someone else can feel whole. I will not trade my joy for the comfort of someone who never intended to hold me gently. And yes, people will push back, especially those who have benefited from your silence. They will call you cold. They will say you've changed. They will try to shame you back into the place where you used to make yourself small just to keep the peace. But peace built on your suffering is not peace. It is control dressed in kindness. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to walk away from a conversation that twists your words. You are allowed to rest when your body is tired. You are allowed to protect your heart from those who only come close to wound it. You are allowed to love someone and still not let them destroy you. Love without boundaries is not holy, it is harmful, because when you give everything and leave nothing for yourself, that is not love. It is surrender. And you were not born to be conquered. You were born to stand rooted like an old tree, with leaves that change but roots that do not move. You were born with the right to decide what comes into your life and what must go. You do not have to explain why something hurts. You do not have to justify the space you take up. You do not have to earn rest or joy or solitude. Those are your birthrights, and any love that asks you to give those up is not love. It is a transaction, and you are not for sale. There will be days when it feels hard, when guilt tries to climb into your bed and whisper that you're being mean or cold or unreasonable. That voice is not your own. That is the echo of all the years you were taught that your value came from how much pain you could carry without complaint. But you know better now. You know that pain is not a badge of honor. You know that your presence is a gift, not a guarantee. And you know that love should never require the abandonment of self. There is courage in saying, I will not betray myself to make you comfortable. There is healing in saying, I matter too. And there is deep, unshakable peace in knowing that your sanity is not a sacrifice you are willing to make for someone who refuses to meet you in truth. The power of boundaries is not about shutting the world out. It is about letting the right people in, people who honor your no as much as your yes, people who do not flinch when you speak your truth, people who love you whole not only when you are giving but even when you are still. When you live with a narcissist, boundaries are more than healthy. They are life-saving, because you are not dealing with someone who sees you as equal. You are dealing with someone who sees you as supply. And the moment you stop supplying, they will rage, they will manipulate, they will twist your strength into selfishness and your resistance into betrayal. But still you stand, because you have learned that love does not mean losing your voice. It does not mean twisting yourself into a shape that fits their broken mold. It means showing up in fullness, not in fear, and if they cannot meet you there, then let them walk. You will not die without them. You will live more fully, more freely, more honestly than you ever did while shrinking to survive. Boundaries are not a threat. They are a declaration. They say, I am here, I am whole, and I will not be undone. Not by guilt, not by gaslight, not by the wounds of someone who refuses to heal. And slowly, as you draw those lines, you will see yourself again. Not as a reflection in someone else's distorted mirror, but as you truly are. Strong, soft, clear-eyed, rooted, you will realize that choosing your own mind is not rebellion. It is return to your peace, return to your clarity. Return to the self you were always meant to be before someone tried to convince you that sanity was selfish and that sacrifice was the price of being loved. And so, if you hear nothing else, hear this. Your sanity is not too much to ask for. Your peace is not a privilege, it is a right. You are not here to be swallowed by someone else's storm. You are here to stand in your own sunlight, to breathe deeply in spaces where you are safe, seen, and whole. Choosing boundaries is not the end of love. It is the beginning of real, honest love. The kind that honors you as you are, not as someone wants you to be. The kind that does not ask you to vanish in exchange for belonging. You are not selfish for protecting yourself. You are not cruel for walking away. You are wise. You are worthy. You are free to choose a life that does not hurt. And every time you say no to what breaks you, you are saying yes to what heals you. Every time you choose truth over silence, you rise. This is not the end of your story. It is the turning point, the moment you stop surviving and start living on your own terms. Let the world adjust to the sound of your boundaries. You are not here to be consumed. You are here to be whole.